let's see what little Simeon Brown's been cooking up.
Oh, little Simeon Brown.
Buckle up. Driving is about to get a whole lot more expensive. The government has unveiled a $20 billion transport plan.
I loved it in the press conference today, where the first thing that I think the Prime Minister said is, we're bringing back roads of national significance. Exactly what we've been saying the whole time. What's new? He literally said, we're bringing back. Yes, so this has been done, attempted before, and you're just rehashing. Literally, nothing new.
Which will see the Roads of National Significance project revamped, with 15 new 4-lane highways to be built. But to pay for it, the entire fleet will have to pay road user charges. So that means electric and now petrol vehicles as well.
Doesn't that actually make EVs feel much more valuable? You know what I'm saying? Because you know what they're going to do? They're going to reduce the excise tax on petrol, but not as much as they're going to add on as road user charges. That'll be absolutely what's going to happen. This government is doing a money grab like never before, and it's all based around fucking taxes. This is the government that wants to lower your taxes, that wants to give money back. And the only way they're generating extra money right now, because they've made promises they can't fulfill, is adding tax upon tax upon tax. It's almost like, Chewy, for the first time ever, we're going to talk about their fucking hypocrisy.
It's crazy. It is in this unveiling of the Roads of National Significance. Would you call ferries a road of national significance, being part of State Highway 1? You could put that under that. $20 billion worth of extra spending, maybe tightening up that bridge across the strait.
Well, that's the hole, isn't it? I don't think we talked about this when it came out, but a couple of weeks ago, there was a hole projected in their plans for roading of, this is the hole of $24 billion. A $24 billion hole in a $20 billion plan. How the fuck does that work? They might talk about it in this story. Let's have a listen.
And drivers are going to face a $50 increase to vehicle registrations over the next 2 years. So
this is the thing, yeah? I'm interrupting a lot. This is the thing. I don't actually mind an increase in that theoretically. Hasn't gone up since the mid-90s. But what I care about is what this government said. Remember, we hold them accountable to how they held the last government accountable and to the standards and things they said. And there was a lot of talk about no new taxes next term. There was a lot of talk about how overtaxed the Labour government is. And all they're doing is bringing in tax after tax after tax. So I think $50 for most people will be okay. It hasn't gone up for 20 years. It doesn't seem like it's going back from 110 to $160 a year. It's not going to be the worst in the world for most people. I'm not playing the hardship it's going to cause a couple, you know. But the thing that's more important to me is, again, what's that word? It rhymes with rhinopocracy. I think it starts with an H. I think we've talked about that tonight, because they said everything's costed. They said everything's paid for. They said giving more money back. Remember, for people who get $4 a week back. Remember, there were some people who are going to get $4 a week back in these tax cuts. That's $200 a year. One fell swoop, a quarter of that's gone. Right? If they catch buses, they're already behind. So it's not about giving back. It's also about where you're adding more money in. And this is just another thing that this government has decided, in a cost of living crisis, that these people, right, living out there in Aotearoa, these people can just pay more now, because it's going to cost more to live under these guys. Ironically, I just said that out loud, Chewy, and it's true. It's going to cost more to live under these guys who promised to fight the cost of living crisis.
These guys criticised Labor for the fuel excise tax. They criticised Labor for taking off fuel excise tax to make it more affordable for people. Look, they campaigned on road user charges for EVs. They had an opportunity there to go, hey, actually, you know what? Looking at the EV road user charge setup has really made us think that we should redo road user charges for everything. And they've said that that's what they're working towards, but they've done it in a really fucking ham-fisted way of rolling it out, taking the criticism from the EV crowd of like, well, hang on, this isn't fair. Like the price per kilometer is fucked. And maybe if it was on all passenger vehicles, we could see what is fair. because petrol cars pay per litre, not per kilometre, whereas road user charges are by kilometre. So it's really, you know, you got to do some math to work it out.
Yeah.
But here we hear the government chucking on more fuel excise tax and higher rego charges. Now, again, I don't have a massive problem in rego charges. As you said, it's been decades since they've done it, and New Zealand had some of the lowest car registration fees in the world. If you want to check out something butthole tightening, check out Australia's rego charges. Very, very high. It was an opportunity to redo everything, do a proper job of it, something that is going to stand the test of time. But every time they do something, this government that says that they're laser focused on the cost of living crisis, they find another way to increase costs. They've gone, again, another habit that they've gone is gone back to the cupboard of ideas that other national governments have had, and we go, oh, we're going to do this again. We're going to do 4 lanes fucking everywhere, despite expert evidence that shows adding more lanes does not solve congestion. It just moves congestion.
Sorry for my face. I just looked at Australia. Victoria, 876.90 in the high-risk Melbourne metro area, 827.54. In Queensland, if you drive a V8, $1,200 registration a year. Holy shit.
Yeah. And, you know, I've had someone call me being biased for being an EV owner. Look, my wife owns a petrol vehicle.
I thought you were going to say it's not my car, it's my wife's EV.
It's my wife's EV.
Sorry.
Look, I'm not biased because of it.
Next t-shirt, Chewy, my wife drives an EV.
I'm not biased because of it. I have knowledge because of it. You know, I've seen the discussions that are happening in various EV groups, and there's a very small amount of EV owners that are going, we shouldn't pay road user charges. Most EV owners that I've seen are like, well, this was always going to happen. All we want is fairness, which is what Simeon Brown is saying, is that we want a fair system. EV owners found it too good for too long. But again, they don't look at the fringe benefits.
For all 18 months, EVs have basically been available.
Yeah, absolutely. And passenger vehicles do minimal damage to the roads. You know, there's a whole mathematical law about how much damage gets done to roads depending on how heavy the car is. Trucks do the majority of damage. So why aren't we looking at coastal shipping? Why aren't we looking at railways? Why aren't we doing this, that, and the other thing? No, we're fiddling around the edges, and we're coming down on EV owners who, for political reasons, a lot of people think are left. It's not necessarily the case. I see a lot of EV owners that are on the right that just are going, yeah, it doesn't make sense. Why is now the most effective vehicle out there, if you want to lessen your costs, a hybrid? It makes no sense.
Yeah. All right. We better get to the story. It should start at some stage and we'll stop talking.
Yeah.
Major cities, congestion charges could also be on the way. So people would have to pay to drive when it is busy on the roads.
I hope if they do that, right, that like in London, if you've got an EV, there's no congestion charges, because it's not. It's also about the CO2. But this government will probably charge everyone going into the areas, no matter what.
And fines for not wearing a seatbelt could triple from $150 to...
You know, the press conference is going off the rails when you have to preempt the questions by saying, this is not a revenue gathering experience or experiment. He literally said that at the start of the press conference. He had to say, you know, it's like Maya Angelou, when people tell you who they are, believe them the first time. It's like when people say it, you believe them. You know, it's like this is not about that, which means for a politician, this is about that. Because if you just look at that, if it's not about a revenue gathering experience, then where does that $300 extra go? Are you going to give it to charity? Or are you going to put it into things you need to pay for? Oh, it's going to garner you some revenue. No.
To $450. Here's political reporter Amelia Wade.
Hi, Amelia.
New roads were a driving force behind National's election campaign. They made it into government, so today behind the podium,
and building 15 new roads of national significance across New Zealand.
the Coalition confirmed the government will get cracking on those roads of national significance. They're mostly spread around the upper North Island, like the alternative to the Brynderwyns, and Aotearoa's most expensive roading project, Mill Road. There's also the second Mount Vic tunnel in Wellington. But it was revealed by the Herald last month, transport officials had advised National it had undercooked its campaign costings by half, leaving a $24 billion hole.
You undercooked your campaign costings by $24 billion.
So the response to this is my official report was undercooked. And do you think he's going to take some kind of responsibility and go, we'll find that out? Or do you think he's going to farm it off? Let's see. I reckon underneath the podium, he's got his lollipop. I think that where it lives for when times get tough.
I wasn't going to bring this up, but you brought up underneath his podium is a milk crate that he's standing on. But look at that wee lad's face. Look at how hurt he is by this question. Who do I report for bullying?
You and me.
Who is this reporter that's bullying him?
Report him to us. Give us a call, Simeon.
$1 billion.
No, there's a range of estimates in terms of what the costings will be.
National in opposition was really irresponsible and a bit reckless. They made these announcements and it's just not deliverable to both spend more money on infrastructure and reduce taxes.
National has now worked out it needs more money for roads.
I can confirm that we will not be increasing Fed or RUC in this term.
It's delaying the pain at the pump.
So they're not going to increase those, but they're going to add on road user charges or higher. You know, it's like, and look, you know how we've been saying to you, and we've done clips on this that are basically look out for the infrastructure privatization that's coming. This press conference, in fact, I had some queued up. We probably won't get to it. They literally say we'll be seeking money from third parties. Like, it's not even that they're saying it. They mention PPPs and road tolls. That, like, we've been saying this to you guys for a month, and now they got to that point of hint, 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 hint. They're overtly saying PPPs. They use that from the podium today. They did say third-party financing. They did say tolls. I don't have a huge problem with tolls because if they're owned by us, like my thing's always been, I used to go to Northland quite a lot, and there was a road that went above Orewa that is tolled to go over. The thing is, you can go the other way. My philosophy has always been if you can still get from A to B and someone just chooses or a government chooses to pay for a faster route, toll that till it's paid for and then take the toll out. Fine. As long as I can still get from A to B without having to use that toll. If I have to use it, then you can't toll it. That's not appropriate. So, you know, but what I'm saying is they're now not skirting around the edges. They're now overtly saying PPP. They're now overtly saying third-party finance. They are now overtly saying tolling. So it's exactly what we've been talking about for a month, Joey.
More privatization.
Yeah.
We can't do anything ourselves. We've got to get, like, was transmission gully not a big enough lesson?
Yeah.
Like, that came in twice as expensive as it was supposed to be, and it required so many repairs, and basically the government having to go to court to force this company to do a decent job, and now they've quit the country. Like, if that's not just an education of this is a fucking dumb idea, then I don't know what is.
All right.
Like,
we'll
if we can't do it, then don't do it.
It up a massive 12 cents a litre at the start of 2027, then another 10 cents by 2029. But make no mistake, drivers will be paying more in the very near future too, because, surprise, rego fees are going up by a whopping $50 over 2 years. That'll rake in an extra $660 million for the government.
Really? Shit. Ridiculous, really.
No, for me, it's just a money-making scheme.
Putting other costs on drivers. It's all coming out in the wash.
No, the reality is we committed to not increasing Fed and RUC. We're not doing that. But the reality is we are raising some revenue through the motor vehicle registration fee.
The government also wants 50,000 roadside drug tests a year and to increase how much people pay in fines.
That's just a money-making scheme.
Yeah,
that's all that is.
I think it's out the gate, if I'm being honest.
These measures are not about revenue gathering. This is about sending a clear message to drivers that reckless behaviour and attitudes on our roads will not be tolerated.
It's also looking at congestion charging, so drivers pay a premium to drive during rush hour.
I've made my expectations clear that the New Zealand Transport Agency must consider different ways of funding and financing major transport investments, ensuring they make efficient use of every dollar spent.
The government is also shifting the focus of the Land Transport Fund. It will no longer pay for walking and cycling projects. In fact, those projects are facing a funding slash and freeze. There has been an explicit directive given to the fund not to pay for traffic calming measures. That's things like bus stops and driving lanes and speed bumps. But it will be able to pay to remove speed bumps. The Transport Minister has also signalled today that public transport fares could be about to increase.
It's going to be a massive blow to low-income households.
Simeon Brown's also keeping his promise to pave over the potholes with a $500 million fund.
We have chosen to prioritise new roading infrastructure, maintaining services and targeted investment in public transport, while also ensuring our roading network is maintained to a high and safe standard.
Though it'll soon just cost drivers a lot more to drive over those fixed-up roads.
There you go, Chewy. Now, you desperately wanted to get into this one, so have at it, sir, before we look at this government's... they're going to fix up the potholes, they're going to charge you more, they're going to make more people smoke, they're going to do a handshake to the petroleum, and next, the most evil of all, they're going to tear school lunches out of your kids' hands. You know, they talk about taking, what are they? Taking a lollipop, easy to take a lolly from a baby? What's that saying? Take a lollipop from a baby or something? It's like they're literally doing that. They're literally going to take food out of children's mouths. But we'll get to that in a second.
I love the combination of, we're going to bring in congestion charges for rush hour. At the same time, they're going to increase public transport fares and decrease funding for alternative modes of transport like cycle lanes. So they're going to force more people into cars and do congestion charges. Like, fuck's sake, man. Like, what is going on? These guys are mental. Like, the land transport fund can't be used for cycling and walking, which is land transport. It's getting more cars off the road. Then there's less congestion. Then there's less that we need to fix on the roads. Like, they seem to have one coherent thought and then just don't consider anything else. And like, if we're talking about school lunches, what a perfect thing. Look at the money and then don't look at anything else. Don't look at the fact that kids that go hungry are 4 times worse in their results than kids that don't. So there we go. We'll just target this generation, so we'll get poorer results, poorer outcomes, and it'll be because they're poor. And that's their own fault, their parents' fault, because we've sanctioned the ass out of them, so they can't... Oh, for fuck's sake, who did that? Oh, well done. A Simeon Brown for every pothole. Talking about Simeon Brown and potholes, right? He saw that this was a thing that he could really campaign on. And do you remember? I think we talked about it briefly. Simeon Brown's pothole of the week.
Yes.
He ran it for about maybe not even four weeks, because every pothole that he posted wasn't on a state road. It was on a city road that was the responsibility of some fucking council. Like, I know for a fact that there's a lot of problems with the roads up north. The weather is wetter. There's more trucks on the road, with trucks that have been made heavier last time National were in. There's more wear and tear on the roads. Yes, they should do something about it. Again, you can justify this, but you can't sit there and go, we need to do more revenue gathering, but we're absolutely not looking at this other thing that we put on the table, which was fucking tax cuts for landlords. We just keep coming back to it. They could have funded all of this if they adopted the Greens. We're going to tax the ultra wealthy. We're going to have a word to our mates because the country is in a state. And when we talk about just missing those opportunities for leadership, this is what they're doing. They're sticking to ideological rather than what is good for the country.